Hey now! What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and fuck. Darren. I'm Darren.
Darren, I hear your concerns, but
Darren. I tried to keep an open mind. I tried to watch a movie that I know did not get good reviews, that I know for the most part people shitted on, but I said to myself, how bad could it be? It can't be all that bad, right? I feel like I should take a second before I talk about the film. I will talk about the film. But first, I want to talk about Matthew Vaughn. Matthew Vaughn, when he first sort of burst into the scene, I know there was one other movie that he directed before this, and he produced a couple of films, but his big sort of breakout when people were like, who was this guy that made this movie? He made Kick-Ass back in 2010. And I remember seeing that film in theaters and thinking, my God, this was something new, something fresh, something that had almost commentary and satire on the superhero genre at a time when we weren't even feeling superhero fatigue, or we weren't really feeling like, oh, comic book films are overtaking the market. No, he had stuff to say that worked and that was fun and was really enjoyable. Then he did a straight up comic book superhero film, X-Men First Class, another movie that reignited that franchise. The X-Men franchise at that point was almost on death's door. And Matthew Vaughn came in and said, no, we can make these characters cool again. We can make this franchise cool again. And they were able to survive a few more years pretty much because of that film. And then he did Kingsman, The Secret Service. And that movie was so fun, especially his take on the spy genre. And pretty much ever since then, he's made mediocre to bad movies. It's the sequel to Kingsman. He did a prequel to it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened. I don't know why his movies aren't as serious as they used to be, or why the comedy in his films don't work nearly as much as they used to. That brings me to Argyle, which is a 2024 film, and I don't get why he decided to make a movie like this. Even the premise, like the initial bare bones premise of this film, we saw before, right? You have Bryce Dallas Howard, who plays this writer who she's written like 5 novels of this spy like story, and it's very successful. She's sort of blown up because of it. And you see that her stories are sort of based off of real events, unbeknownst to her. And now evil spies are going after her. She's having to be protected by Sam Rockwell. It's a whole mess of like, here's a writer being thrown into a situation that's like her books. Just a couple years ago, I saw a movie with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum that was the same exact premise. So I thought, wow, this isn't even original. I'm not saying Matthew Vaughn stole the idea. I'm not even saying it's the most original idea or that it was original when they did it. But it's just, man, we just had this. And I would argue the Sandra Bullock movie was better. Cut to, look, this cast, it's a great cast. But this movie shows that you don't necessarily throw together a great cast and it automatically means great film. You need a whole lot more. You need the material for the actors to work with. I do think Bryce Dallas Howard is good. I'm not saying that if you watch this, you'll 100% buy her, in especially where the role ends up going, but I liked seeing her pretty much play 2 different types of characters, almost 3 different types of characters. I think she's a good enough actress that probably hasn't been given a role that is able to show this much range. But man, the twist for the sake of twist, that really should have been the name of this movie, twist for the sake of twist. Henry Cavill plays the fictional version of the Argyle character that she writes about, and like, I don't know if you could say whether he's good or bad. He's just sort of here. And it was the opening scene where, sure, it's a fantasy, sure, it's from her book, but when you see the special effects, the CGI, and I looked up that this movie cost well over $200 million. Like, the green screen background, it sort of put me unease of like, man, sort of car chase scene that happens just at the beginning alone, never mind the shit that comes later. It's off-putting. I could see if this movie was way cheaper. I could see if this movie was just trying to get stuff going, but that budget is insane for this movie to look as fake as it does here. Sam Rockwell, I liked seeing Sam Rockwell getting the chance to play like more of a lead type actiony hero character. It's just not all of the humor, even with him, as good as he is, works. Catherine O'Hara. I love seeing Catherine O'Hara. Bryan Cranston. Like, I have nothing bad to say about the actors themselves or really their performance. It's just how they're used. Pretty atrocious. Especially Bryan Cranston. Like, what a fucking waste. John Cena. He's in everything. So it's like you can't even really base anything off of John Cena being here. Sam Jackson. Another guy who just sort of shows up because it's a paycheck. So why the fuck not? And by the end of the movie, I was sort of delirious and groggy and not really paying as much of attention because I didn't really care as much. But throughout the film, there is a cat named Alfie that Bryce Dallas Howard has with her. She has in her backpack. It pops out every so often. But at the very end, when the CGI cat jumps out and practically saves the day, I sort of threw my hands up and said, fuck this movie. I mean, I was already there. There was already so many twists and turns and like, oh no, this person's bad. Oh no, this person's the villain. Oh no, this person had amnesia and now they remember everything. So much cliches. It's like Matthew Vaughn went from sort of having commentary to say about a certain genre, having satire to say about how certain films of that genre could be better, to now just being no better himself, to now just making a film that's filled with the most tired, cliched twist type stuff that I think I've ever seen in a film. And it's almost sad. It's almost sad to see a guy that clearly has the talent, but I don't know if it was too much fame, too much success so soon, so fast, that he sort of just went fucking crazy and lost his mind. Because a budget like this, and this is what he produces, if I had seen this in the theater, I probably would have walked out. Like, that's what we're talking about here, for as bad as it is. Like, I'm sort of debating in my head of, like, where am I going to put it on my worst films of the year? Like, it's there, people. And that's why I just can't help but talk about the director and just his previous outings. The mid-credit scene of how he's trying to tie this into the Kingsman movies as if anyone gives a shit. Remember at the end of Split where they tied in the film to Unbreakable and Bruce Willis showed up and everybody lost their fucking mind? I was in the theater. I heard everybody gasp. It was fucking cool. I feel like that's the same type of vibe that he's going for here. But you know what? This time, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares. And I feel like we need to stop. Whatever movie he has planned that's still tied into this universe, we need to stop that shit now. We need to move on. We need to get Matthew Vaughn something else. Something smaller. Something to just make him tone his ass down. Because this over-the-top action bullshit is just not cutting it anymore. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below if you too saw Argyle, if you thought it sucked as well. Are you also disappointed with Matthew Vaughn? Remember when people were begging for him to like make the next Superman movie or just something cool? Man, am I glad we dodged that bullet. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.